Hello, I'm Justin.
And I'm Paige.
And we are
Being Adventurous.
So, for this video, we're going to tell you our thoughts about our recent test drive experience with the Nissan Ariya.
The ride and drive.
The ride and drive. So they held that on Sunday, June 12th, down at the Texas Motor Speedway. And it was an interesting setup. Of course, it wasn't on the track or anything like that, but they set up a course in one of the supporting parking lots, I guess.
Yeah.
And what it meant to do was trying to give you an experience in the vehicle through different situations. So the first part was all about the acceleration. Second part was
stop and stop.
Stop and stop.
Stop and start.
Stop and start. And then the third was the slalom.
Mm-hmm.
And the fourth had to do with school zone and grannies running on the street or something like that. And then finally, well, not even finally, then they had some bumps on the road so you can kind of feel how the suspension is. And then the last part was the self-parking. Mm-hmm. So with that said, do we want to just jump right in, or is there anything else you wanted to bring up with regards to the event itself?
I feel... I don't know how well advertised it was. So the way that I found out about it was, I want to say through Facebook or through Twitter. Those are usually my main things. But I remember seeing something that said, Ariya Ride and Drive. Sign up now. And so clicked on the link, came up with the dates, didn't tell me where the event was taking place or anything really about it. Just sign up for a slot.
Right, day and time.
Day and time. So I picked a day and time where I thought that, we would be willing to test drive this. And then later on when I got, and at first when I signed up for it, it said that they didn't have any of the drive yourself options available. That they were all sold out, and I thought, sold out? Does that mean we had to pay for it? I was really confused. And then when I finally got registered, it made it seem like we signed up to drive it ourselves, but it was not clear. And at this point, I still didn't know where it was located. But then I got a confirmation email, and it said that it was at the Texas Motor Speedway. So that made me feel a little bit better. I knew we weren't having to take a road trip to go and find this place. But that was a little bit confusing, and I feel like that should have been handled a little bit better. And I did tell them that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But overall, the timing of it, and the location coupled with the time we signed up for, it actually worked out perfectly within our typical Sunday routine, because we were back in the local area to essentially start our normal Sunday routine. So it worked out great from that perspective. So.
Yeah.
And everyone there was nice.
In Texas,
and fairly knowledgeable.
Really, for Texas, you're not allowed to sell cars on Sundays. So all the dealerships in Texas, with the blue laws, you can't sell cars on Sundays. So we didn't have to worry about going to a dealership and doing anything. And I think maybe Saturday might have been a little bit different. They might have had more dealer people.
Well,
there.
and they were also saying that while they were in town, they were training the local dealers. Mm-hmm. So, which is a great sign that they're getting the education done, taken care of. And I think, overall Nissan, since they've had the Leaf, a lot of dealers are already familiar with the EV side of Nissan and things like that. So that might give them a nice advantage when it comes to learning about the Ariya.
And then going back to your point about how they were in town to train, one of the things that they did say was they had 2 comparison electric vehicles in their training.
Yep.
And they were comparing it to the ID4 and the Mach-E.
Yep.
So that was interesting to see how they, and it's weird that they would compare them to those 2 cars, however, because neither of those cars do DC fast charging.
Well, they both do DC fast charging.
Yeah. Well, but not at the higher level, right?
They go up to 150.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, excuse me.
And remember that guy we met in Denton mentioned that his was going above 150, which is why he was using
the 350.
The 350 version, yeah.
Okay. So sorry, yes. Forgive me.
No worries. And I'm not going to edit that out.
Okay.
Not that skilled. Anyway, so we moved to the car itself. Because remember, we did see the exterior of the car back at the Chicago Auto Show in 2021, but it was, quarantined off because we weren't there on a press day and we weren't considered press, so we couldn't actually open the door or touch and feel or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it was good to actually be able to go further with this. So, but we'll still start with the exterior.
Okay.
So what's kind of your likes and dislikes or thoughts around the exterior?
Well, going back to our experience in Chicago, I was not a fan of the black trim over the wheels.
Like our current EV6 has.
He keeps wanting to point that out. It seems a lot thicker. So, and I don't know if it's because on the EV6 it goes around and then it kind of molds to the car and it just makes it all one thing that looks really nice. But so, anyway, I wasn't a big fan. Now, the only color option that we had seen in Chicago was this kind of sunrise gold. Sorry, we love the color, but it does really stand out in that color. And when we saw it, they have this, what did they call it, northern light color, which goes kind of gray, purple,
it's
green,
a dark
black
color, but depending on the angle you're viewing it, it kind of changes the color appearance. So
and the wheel, the color over the wheels doesn't stick out as much for that. So it was more appealing to me. They had a nice gray looking color that I really liked too. But Justin does like to remind me that that's one of the things that I really liked about the EV6, and so I should really like it about this one. The one thing I definitely did not like about this was over the windows on both sides of the car, there is this little thin chrome outline. It doesn't match any of the other color on the outside of the car at all. Just this little tiny thin chrome outline. And to me, that just threw it off for me. It either needed to be the same color as the car or the black. But that chrome was just off-putting.
But it is interesting that that's not the first car we noticed something like that on. And that's in another video of the other car that we noticed that. So that is interesting. But to Paige's point, for me, I don't mind it, but I do understand that it really depends on the color that it's matching up against. Just like your wheel outlining, it really depends on the base color and how much contrast there is. Just like compared to the roof.
Yeah.
So, yep.
I mean, those are really the two glaring exterior things that I had issue with. So I'm not sure. Did you have any negative exterior
well,
things?
yeah, I mean, for me, well, first of all, we drove and saw the Premier version, which was the version that was available for pre-order, which I think they were saying pre-orders ended at the end of January, so you could no longer get that, which is their current top spec. There will be an additional spec called Platinum, and that's the one that is the all-wheel drive version. They call it like E-Force with a 4 to be cool, but they don't have the updates on that. I liked that it had the front badge illumination.
Oh, we're going to likes now? Okay.
Well, we can call likes and dislikes.
Okay.
I just don't know if I had anything that was like a striking I don't like about it.
Still on
the one thing that I did, I guess, was kind of a distraction for me was I'm a big wheel size person, so the ones that we test drove, even and they were the same size as the interior one, which is the 19-inch. For some reason, when I looked at it on the outside, I didn't like it, but I didn't mind it so much with the indoor one, and I don't know what the difference was reflecting back as to why I had the reaction on the outside versions of the cars versus the inside, because even the Premier version doesn't even have the option for the 20-inch rims. Those are only with the Platinum ones, so which is fine. I definitely appreciate them showcasing their top of the current top spec, because we've mentioned that in other videos that we always hate when car manufacturers show the lower specs, because I think you should be leading with your best foot forward, and so Nissan is currently doing that with what their current best foot is. So I did like that.
I do like the wheels though. The interior, what are the wheel, hubcap, rims, whatever you want to call it. Those are very sharp looking. I like the little pattern that's on those, and the one with the color inside matched the paint color, which was kind of nice.
Yeah, the sunrise gold had a two-tone interior. It looked really sharp.
Yeah.
Versus the one that I guess was the Northern Lights, it was a singular black. And those are the two options, from what I can tell from the brochure that they handed out. So both look sharp. I don't mind the black interior, but the two-tone was really sharp. And not to skip ahead to interior, but yeah.
Yeah, you just did.
So did you. I guess the one negative I guess I should mention is because their current top spec is single motor, and the odd thing was, and maybe there's other EVs that have went with this choice, but a lot of the EVs that we've been looking at lately, when it's a single motor, is typically rear-wheel drive, where Nissan decided to go with a front-wheel drive option. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and performance was not great. I mean, the distance that they had allotted for the acceleration before they told you to start braking, we barely topped 40 miles per hour. I think I hit like 42 or 43. It was slow. So that was kind of disappointing. But I will say, the handling, there wasn't a lot of roll when you're doing the slalom or dodging grannies and things like that. And the bumps didn't really... It seemed to shock absorb those really well. So from that perspective, it passed. But the performance, that's the big dislike. Is the performance. When you get dual motors, it's obviously going to be more better performance, and probably more in line with our XC40 and EV6 currently. I think they're going to match up pretty well from that perspective. The other thing that they did mention is the roof color currently is black, but there is an option to have the top of the roof color match the body color.
Yes.
So I thought that was interesting, and that's why I was thinking that maybe it would make that chrome strip more palatable if the color above it and below it were the same. It's a theory. It's a working theory. And of course, no frunk.
Yeah.
But we don't use our frunks now, and they're not that big on the XC.
Yeah, I think
EV6, so
we have recently had to replace our windshield wiper fluid, and in doing so in the Volvo, it's like, oh wow, there's a frunk in here. I completely forgot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I forgot it was there.
Because back at Electrify Expo, the demo person
wouldn't let us open
it because we're like, we put cables and stuff in there, so that's why we just never really done this. That we actually do have one in that. So,
but just as an FYI, the XC40 and the EV6, they're holding tank for your windshield wiper. It's a lot. You can put a lot in there. I probably could have put a gallon in each. I was shocked, but I was also surprisingly shocked at how fast they ran out. I mean, we've had the cars 5 months, really 4 and 5 months, and
but they get dirty daily though. So I use it.
Okay, so never mind.
It's my fault.
Okay.
And then just overall though, I like the design. Spending more time with it. I mean, I didn't think it was terrible. At least as far as I know, I'd maybe have to relook at my video from Chicago. But overall, I think the exterior design is pretty nice. I know you weren't as big as a fan of the front end. Not that I was a huge fan, but yeah. Anything else?
For outside?
Yes.
We like the split panoramic roof, so that's kind of out and in. It's nice, weird. It has, when it's open, it has this windscreen that kind of pops up, and it's a little bit confusing how that's going to affect the aerodynamics and the range. But how often are you really going to have that popped up when you're out driving on the highway? They do it to kind of minimize that kind of shutter, the buffing, the noise that you get in your ears when you have that open. But it is nice that you can open half of it, and that was kind of cool. Yeah, I think it's a great compromise between going full moonroof or only going sunroof. It's basically and I guess the XC40 does the same thing. Yeah. But they just do it in a different way. Yeah. But yeah. So then if you want to start talking about interior. Yes. Yeah. Like he said, the two-tone seating was beautiful. We really liked the way that it was styled inside. It does have the flat floor in the back, which was nice. It's one thing. The front. Well, right, but that's one thing that we do miss with the XC40, even though we don't ride in the back. It's nice to have for our backseat passengers. The material quality was really nice on the premium, where it had the leatherette
and kind of like the microfiber. It was really nice, plush, certainly in that kind of, you know, premium plus. And so more closer to the XC40, I think, from a material perspective. One thing,
had the stitching,
nice stitching,
nice color,
really
stitching.
nice touching. The one thing I did notice from a material perspective was, you know, like the bottom inside doors was very similar to the EV6, where it was just the hard plastic, which I'm not going to nitpick that, because I think, you know, for the price point that they were talking, it's to be expected. Right?
Yeah.
Just like it was to be expected on the EV6. So
yeah.
I'm not going to penalize it for that. I'm just going to point it out.
What's your favorite part of the interior?
I have many favorite parts.
What's your favorite, starting at the front and working back, what's your favorite part?
Well, there's one thing that they showed us after we did the test drive and after we put the camera away, which was in the center console, because so the center console itself is electrically powered, so that way you can move it forward and backwards. So basically, similar to the Hyundai Ioniq 5, but instead of doing it manually, it's electrified. But in doing so, there's not a lot of storage. You lift up the middle and you have room for your wireless, you know, phone to wirelessly charge, and that's pretty much about it. So, but there is a button on there that you press, and it's a touch button, there's a tray that pops out from the dash,
console, yeah.
from the dash, that is a, you know, a tray with depth, but also it has a cover, so that way you could use it to put, you know, iPad on or your laptop, whatever, so that you have a place to put it while you're waiting to charge or whatever the case. So that I thought was really, really, really cool.
And then there's a spot at the bottom of that where you can put another phone to charge, wired charging, and it has like a little section where you kind of wrap the cord around to keep it from getting tangled.
Or if you're doing wired Android Auto, that'd be the place to put your phone. Yeah.
And there's like a little bucket that you can put your purse or small items underneath. It's not really tall like it is in the EV6 or the Ioniq 5, but that was nice.
Yeah, definitely a great cockpit feel because of how that center console is. Yeah, and I really liked both on that center divide that I mentioned and the dashboard. It had that fake wood type surface with the integrated touch controls. So it had, you know, the touch controls like the Kia EV6 has for your temperature and all that kind of stuff, and then it had more touch controls that had the auto park on there and other things on the center. So I thought that was kind of a nice touch because it blended really well, and it seemed to work really well from the touch. So I kind of really appreciated that. And I know this is something that I expressed concern about back at the Chicago Auto Show, was remember when we were sitting inside and we're looking at the dash, and, you know, the one screen was back here, but the second one was moved up a little bit, and we're concerned about that, especially because we had the EV6 as a reference where it's just all straight. But
didn't notice it.
See, I did, because I know that's one of the ongoing common concerns about EV6 users, is that because the second screen isn't moved in, it's harder to reach when you're driving, so you pretty much have to move forward, and you don't really want to do something like that when you're driving. So because Nissan moved it up maybe by an inch, it just makes it easier to touch. So I appreciated that. I appreciated it, and it didn't interfere with the display at all. I thought the screens were really clear and whatnot. So, and it looked like from a software perspective, there's a lot of functionality built in, certainly a lot more than what the Volvo has. We found out that it has Amazon Alexa built in. We didn't test it because we noticed it in the brochure. They didn't actually mention it, but I thought that was kind of nice.
That was a good thing, and I felt like they should have highlighted that.
Yeah.
But it does have the rear view mirror camera.
Yes. So that was something we were looking forward to, because we, you know, noticed that it was on one of the specs for the Cadillac Lyric, and, you know, we have someone we know that has a Cadillac, and they just absolutely love having the rear view camera as their mirror. The one thing I did notice, though, there's a lot of glare. So I'm trying to, and that's could potentially be an issue on bright days. Maybe not so much on non-bright days, but we're in Texas. It's gonna be a lot of bright days. So I'm wondering if there's a way to put a film on there to do glare reduction. So that's something we're gonna have to think about.
Yeah.
But so I didn't spend a lot of time looking at it. I don't know if you did when you were driving.
Well, I was wearing sunglasses.
So
it was
very notice it.
Yeah, it was very difficult for me to see out of it with my sunglasses on. And then when he was showing us the self-park feature, he's like, okay, when you see the little diamond shape, stop. And I'm like, I can't see a damn diamond. I can't see anything. I've got the wrong glasses on. So that was my mistake.
Yeah, that was definitely your mistake. It was good that the seats were heated. Were they
only heated, front and back?
Front and back were heated, but apparently on the Platinum version, the all-wheel drive version, it will have climate-controlled front seats, which we assume means heating and cooling. But the back seats will still be heated only.
Yeah.
So still a nice feature. Lots of headroom, both in the front and the rear.
Yeah, didn't seem to be an issue.
Didn't have an issue at all.
Legroom was great. Comfortable.
Yeah. The trunk seemed a bit on the smaller side, but maybe part of that's going to be because it's more of like the sportback quote sportback design, so it slopes, so that inhibits a little bit of the height. But from a width perspective, it seemed to be okay. To me, it seems very similar to either the XC or the EV6. I didn't really we couldn't do a side-by-side comparison, but it didn't seem to be terribly small or anything like that. This is something that we noticed.
Yeah, and then there was some confusion. Are we ready to go to performance, or are you still...
we're in the interior, so...
Okay.
Anything else in the interior you have?
The trunk divider was neat. It had this...
Yep.
So the flat part of the trunk, you could lift up one section and have it standing straight up, so anything behind it would not roll around the trunk, which is something that is an issue currently with the EV6.
Right, but not with the XC40.
Right.
Because the XC solves it... Well, I guess because it came with the rubberized mat, so nothing slides around. Had we not have that, then we would experience the same issue. But the EV6, we don't have that, so things that slide around, and which is what you don't want. Certainly, it'd be nice if there was a way to control from side to side, because there's plastic on each side. But certainly, you don't want it, sliding to the back of the car and scratching up the inside of the trunk and things like that. Yeah. So that is a nice little touch.
Yeah, we like that.
Which it also exposed the fact that it does come with charging cables, unlike the Kia EV6, which didn't. Right. So it was nice to at least get that confirmed and out of the way. Lots of USB ports. I think there were 6 total, including 2 on the back of the center divide for the rear passengers, along with the 2 vents. So it's interesting that they went with centralized vents versus vents being on the B pillar, whatever people call it.
Yeah.
The one thing, I don't know if you noticed this, on the car that we test drove, on the door sill or the floor, it had the illuminated Ariya logo.
Oh, I did not notice it.
The car that was in the demo room did not. Yet they're both Premiers. So that must be an option on the Premier.
It must be.
Because, yeah, it just didn't have it. It kind of threw me off.
That's really good.
Well, maybe this is part of your other thing, but I'll get to it. They're partnering with EVgo. They're saying you get like a $400 or $500 charging credit. I forget what the amount was.
But they said that was for pre-orders.
But yeah, so we don't know what they're going to include for the shipping one. But it is kind of frustrating because for us, EVgo, at least from our limited experience with EVgo, and a caveat with that, I much prefer Electrify America because there's a lot more, and they have the DC fast charging. I just don't know how fast EVgo chargers go from a kilowatt speed.
And the only EVgo chargers that we have encountered in the wild were all free already.
Yeah.
So.
But slow.
Oh yeah.
That's the caveat. So for me, is like, if we're gonna go on a long range trip, I'd be okay with using the EVgo network if they were an option, but not if they're going to be slow charging. Because you're traveling long distance, you want it to charge as fast as possible. And right now, Electrify America seems to be that option. Or, of course, the Tesla Supercharge network if you have a Tesla. So that was kind of discouraging. But yet, they're not the only car manufacturer that has gone the route of partnering with EVgo. Because Cadillac is doing that for the Lyriq. So that's kind of a bummer. The 2 other things that I want to mention has to do with the regeneration. One, I didn't think the regen strength was very good. Certainly not compared to the XC40, because in our experience, the XC40 has really good regen, even compared to the EV6. So this was probably similar to the EV6 from a regen, maybe a little bit less. And part of that reason could be they also don't have one pedal driving. They have e-pedal, which slows it down to a crawl, but still relies on you to brake. So maybe if we compared it to the level 3, which is the step down from one pedal on the EV6, maybe that would be a good comparison to see how well the regen is. But I really noticed that, and I do not like that because I'm just so used to one pedal. I love one pedal. You know, don't give me that I got to brake crap. Just, you know, do one pedal. Just do one pedal and get it over with. So, and then I guess just, you know, one last thing going back to the trunk. In the trunk, there's no backseat release.
Oh yeah.
Things. So that's the last thing I noticed. So I think that covers it. Did we talk about the AR heads-up display that it has it?
We didn't, but that was nice to see. It was good.
And but as far as I don't, since it was only showing how fast we were going because we're on a fake course.
Right. You couldn't see if it had the.
Couldn't see how all the other information displayed and all that kind of stuff. But it did seem like you could, in the software, move the position around a little bit and things like that, which is nice because I think we've been looking at doing it with our current cars. And then one of the other things I noticed with regards to the interior lighting is that they have two types. There's, let's see, where did I put it? They have accent and ambient. Both of them only seem to allow you to adjust the brightness, not the color. And
he said you could change color.
Correct. And so, again, maybe I just didn't find it in the menu when I was looking through it that brief time. But that does get me worried because even in the brochure, they didn't talk about the lighting from a color perspective.
Okay.
So, because usually the manufacturers will talk about it, you know, they will talk about how many color options there are.
Yeah.
Or mention the term RGB or something to that effect. They did not in the brochure, nor in and I didn't catch that comment when he was talking. So, I think that covers it for me. What were you thinking?
Well, I mean, just performance-wise, I think just the pickup speed was disappointing. Yeah. You know, okay, floor it. I'm trying. So that was a little bit disappointing.
But they were talking about the price that it, and I'm assuming he was talking about the Premier that was $53,000.
Right.
Which is, you know, overall, that's a really, really good price. I guess that's why they're comparing it to the Mach-E and the ID4, because if you go up levels in the ID4, it's probably price comparable as well. So that's, it's not too bad.
That was pleasant. Yeah. It was a nice surprise. And enough for us to talk about it, to consider it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, because we are currently looking at the two other models.
There's some other options that we're thinking about, you know, switching from the XC40 at some point. Yeah, and that was in it though. That was the extended range battery as well.
That was very nice.
Charge times pretty comparable to most others, right? I think the documentation said the maximum was 130 kilowatts. So a DC fast charge at the 150 stall should be fine. And
what was the battery size?
87, I believe.
87, yeah. And it was, what, 273? In the 270s for miles?
Yeah, 270, 280, something like that.
And then if you went
with the extended range one.
Yeah. One of them went up to 300, though. If you had a different size wheel on it, he was saying. So that was really nice, and that makes you kind of go, oh, okay, well, you know, maybe that is something to really consider. But for us personally, I think we have to still decide, is it style over performance? You know?
Well, yeah, but so, and in part of that conversation, there was another piece of information that the person on the Inside demo mentioned was Nissan still qualifies for the $7,500 tax credit. And they're saying that they do expect that they'll probably hit it by the end of the year. They'll hit that 100,000 limit or whatever it is.
End of production year.
End of production year. Thus, afterwards, then it'll gradually scale down. So that is still better than, let's say, the Cadillac Lyriq, which no longer qualifies for the tax credit, the federal tax credit at all. So that's an interesting advantage, certainly from a price perspective. Just part of the overall decision process. But it was good.
Yeah.
Overall. So we're certainly glad that whether it was Facebook or Twitter, it was great that Paige caught that and we were able to do it and finally get our hands on it and drive it. So that was really great. And, you know, hopefully you found this information useful. If you have any questions, let us know, because we still have the brochure that they gave us as well, which has potentially information clarified for you that maybe we weren't as clear or we didn't mention. We'd be more than happy to do that in the comments. Otherwise...
Thank you for being adventurous with us.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.